Mr. Chair, we're ready.
Go on.
Yes, sir.
We'll call this special meeting the Oversight Board for the date of September the 6th to order. May I have a roll call, please?
Sure. Board Member Abkarian. Here. Berry. Culpepper. Ochoa. Here. Robertson.
Here.
Steger.
Here.
And Chair Raggio.
Here.
The agenda for September 6, 2017, regular meeting of Glendale Oversight Board was posted on Friday, September 1st, 2017 on bulletin board outside City Hall. Next item is approval of minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go back.
We have approval of minutes of January 26, 2017.
We don't have all the members in attendance who were at that meeting.
But we need the other members, don't we? All right. So we'll go on to the next item.
Next item before you, 4A, we have Director of Community Development regarding amended recognized obligation payment schedule for January 2018 through June 2018, ROB 1718B. At 4A1, Oversight Board Resolution to adopt amended recognized obligation payment schedule for January 2018 through June 2018, ROB 1718, including administrative budget for the same period.
Good afternoon, Oversight Board Chair and members. The agency is presenting for your approval an amended ROPS for the period of January through June of 2018. The Dissolution Act allows such an amendment when the Oversight Board determines that it's necessary in order to make payments in the ROPS period. And as staff was preparing for its last and final ROPS, it discovered that the payments being made for line 18 on the ROPS needed to be revised. Line 18 is the reserve set-aside account per the owner participation agreement between Disney and the agency. The reserve is used to fund public infrastructure improvements that are necessitated by the build-out of the Disney campus. The reserve set-aside amounts are determined by a specific formula that are set out in the owner participation agreement. The agency has been using a calculation spreadsheet that was developed prior to the Dissolution Act. When the Dissolution Act occurred in 2012, it canceled the 20% low and moderate income housing fund set-aside, which is one of the deductions that's used in the Disney reserve set-aside formula. The calculation spreadsheet should have been revised at that time, but it wasn't. And the agency would like to correct this oversight and bring the reserve account to the correct balance per the owner participation agreement in order to be in legal compliance with this enforceable obligation. The total amount required to correct the reserve set-aside balance is $2,588,186. Although this will result in less tax increment flowing to the taxing entities in this ROPS period than was anticipated prior to this change, the amount should have been set aside in prior ROPS periods, so it's really a delayed payment rather than a new payment. So with that, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Board members have questions?
I just have one question. So the 2.588186 comes from where? You're adding $2 million to our reserve. What is that coming from?
The tax increment that flows from the property tax payments that are made by the Disney campus.
So the tax increment that was supposed to go to different entities, we're taking 2.58 million from there and adding it to the reserve. And you were saying that should have been done previously, which wasn't done. Accordingly, we're doing it now. So that whatever they were supposed to get, they're going to get less because we're going to transfer $2 million of it to this reserve.
Correct. But they would have gotten less in the previous periods if we had correctly made it at that time.
And if Disney never does any of the projects or triggers the expenditure of these funds, ultimately what happens to these funds?
They would get returned to the taxing entities.
That's simple. Okay. Along the formula that's there in the staff report.
Yes, sir.
You better tell Disney to spend about $13 million right away. What do they need? Okay, you thought?
Percentage.
If I may, it is based, though, on a reimbursement. So Disney has to build out the infrastructure that's required by a phase that they build. And so if they don't, the other important thing, and for you, Mr. Abkarian, since you are a county representative, and really all of you, For the most part, the majority of the improvements are needed for this project, but they are regional in nature, and so they benefit the entire North Corridor.
Thank you. Any further questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, call the roll, please.
Board members of Carrion,
Yes.
Barry, Culpepper, Ochoa,
Yes.
Robertson,
Yes.
Steger,
Yes.
and Chair Raggio.
Yes. Next item, please.
Next, we have oral communication. No cards have been submitted. Following that, we have board member and staff comments.
I just have one request for the next meeting. Are we going to have a next meeting, or is this?
Yes.
This is like second to last, I think, isn't it?
For the next meeting, if we can just get an update on the Mona and what happened with that, and is there an update as to what they're doing, just to make sure that we didn't give them our money and they took it and they ran, just as an obligation that we have to make sure that everything is okay. So if you could just get an update on that, I would appreciate it.
Will do.
Any other requests? Do we have anything on our calendar for a discussion? I don't see anything in the way of nodding heads, so.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
just a note to follow up on Mr. Ochoa. Beginning in July of next year, the county is supposed to go to a consolidated oversight board. And that's why the reference to this is one of the last few meetings. Combine that with something we'd mentioned earlier in preparing for our last and final ROPS. So that really is the last action we think that this board will need to take. We still have some things that we need to sort out before we can do that. That's probably the last item that will come to you. That's a schedule going forward for until everything is paid and we're completely out of business. It's a schedule that then just gets administratively
When do you see that meeting taking place?
Probably not for a year or so. So we may have a couple of ROPS in between. But as I say, we need to do some other housekeeping things that will just take some time, and then we'll move forward with that.
Well, in that case, I wish everybody a Merry Christmas.
Very well could be.
And if there's nothing further, then we just set a new record. We are adjourned.